Hello, and welcome to the Drawing Animal Podcast with Wesley Bear. I'm your host, Wesley Bear, and on today's episode, we will be discussing the Rakali, the Australian water rat. While not technically like other rats, we'll get into that in a sec. Um, it is at least a rodent native to the Australian continent. It can also be found on New Guinea and Tasmania. It is particularly found in northeast, and eastern Australia and a small section of southeast Australia. It's usually found around, of course, water, usually slow moving to basically placid bodies of water, so a very slow moving stream or a lake, where they will burrow into the side of the lake and hunker down for their home and where they will raise their young. They will swim pretty expertly, not as well as, say, an otter would, as there are no otters, of course, in Australia, but it has partially webbed feet on its hind feet and has a tail that's at least designed for swimming, and they will dive underneath water in search of prey. Their prey is nearly all carnivorous in terms of they rarely eat anything regarding water plants or seeds or flowers like most rodents would, but is nearly a strict carnivore, feeding on frogs, fish, crustaceans, even small mammals and small birds. But as we will get into in a minute, um, this has actually led the water rat to be specially uh, designed, or at least adapted, to figuring out ways to hunt all sorts of creatures, which we will get into in a minute. Now, as for the species as a whole, the rauki is a pretty common animal. It has small ears, basically about brown body, yellowish, palish undersides, long whiskers, actually twice the amount of whiskers a normal rat would have, and as I mentioned, is pretty much blind underwater, and so uses those sensitive whiskers to hunt prey. But being a water rat, it means it has a soft fur that is basically waterproof. This means that in the early parts of the 19th century, particularly in the late 30s, um, they were actually heavily hunted. Uh, the import of muskrat fur into the country was banned due to all sorts of economic pressures and stuff that were laid across basically the entirety of the world at that time because of the Great Depression. But that basically led to hunters trying to find another source, and they found it in the fur of the raukai. It became a pretty relied upon fur for, of course, those, especially ladies and men who wanted to wear fur jackets or fur hats, and became pretty expensive to purchase. The price rose significantly, and so it was hunted even more. Thankfully, though, modern sensibilities and legislation have pretty much banned the water rat from being hunted as a species, so the species is pretty much uh, totally recovered, except in some areas where there is still a threat of species like cats and dogs that have been introduced, of course, to Australia, and irrigation techniques and drain swamps for either farming or building purposes. But otherwise, the rat itself has fully recovered. Now, getting back to an interesting fact is that the Raukai has adapted into eating king toads. King toads are another invasive species. Uh, they're known particularly for their poisonous skin, and so very few animals have adapted to eating them, and in return, have poisoned predators and have also decimated populations of things that basically king toads love to eat in those kinds of regions of the world, where they are not native, as they were originally from South America, but basically have exploded across the entire world, where they have been introduced at least. But the Raukai has basically adapted a method, a way of getting around the problem. Basically, they will stay away from the poisonous skin on the top of the animal, where the skin is usually the most poisonous, and they will flip the toads over, uh, cut a very precise hole in the belly of the toad, and will only eat the organs of the liver and the heart. And so, by doing this, they have actually kept in check at least some of the cane toad population in Australia. Unfortunately, the population of cane toads is still growing and expanding and threatening all sorts of Australian native wildlife. But hopefully, by studying the Raukai and as hopefully population of water rats continue to increase, there will be less and less king toads in the future. Um, so there you are, one of God's rats that has adapted to a kind of almost hopeless situation for a lot of Australia's native wildlife, but has found a way to get around it. So we should hope for a bright future for Australia in terms of all of God's creatures, and the spread of a non-native species will continue to dwindle, hopefully, as that will probably be good for not only native wildlife, but for the country of Australia as a whole, and it will rebalance the nature within Australia, which also is going through a bunch of problems due to all sorts of invasive species, including rabbits and such, and cats and dogs and other non-native frogs, insects, birds, and so on. So hopefully that is a good sign for the future of Australia. So there you are. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to enjoy God's creation, enjoy nature, and enjoy drawing, and look out for my books online, which are under the Crazy Creatures series under my name, Wesley Bear. If you would like to learn more, you can look in the description of this episode and also just explore the Crazy Creatures Caricatures podcast as whole for not only more episodes of the Drawing Animal podcast, but for just any kind of fun zoo stuff. And hopefully, very soon, there will be a new updated website to go along with it. In the meantime, have a wonderful day. Also, special thanks to the Wild Episode podcast for putting a lot of this information into a concise format, and I would highly suggest you check him out. I may not agree with him on some things, especially on the evolution side, but he is a wonderful podcaster and has some information that a lot of other animal podcasts don't touch on. So I would also highly recommend listening to him as well. Just wanted to tag that on. Again, have a wonderful day.